Companies are afraid of getting canceled, and over the years, we've seen franchises that got popular for being edgy change pace and release more politically correct content. Saints Row is a great example of that. The previous games were edgy, had adult humor, and they sold very well, and the new reboot has failed to impress fans. They're making the main characters hipsters who order soy lattes from Starbucks, and unfortunately, we've worried that with Grand Theft Auto, it would also go in a PC direction since we've seen remasters release and content be censored and toned down. But now we're hearing that with 6, they're toning down the offensive humor. I have a bunch of things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So I wanted to primarily read this Bounding into Comics article. It says sources claim Rockstar Games plans to introduce female protagonist and neuter offensive content that punches down in GTA 6. Now, I actually have no problems with there being a female protagonist. I think that this is great. I think that this is a cool different direction that they're deciding to go in. I have no problems with that. The problems that I have lie in them toning down the offensive content. It says sources claim that Grand Theft Auto 6 will have a female protagonist, less content that could be deemed as punching down, and a kinder and less intensive work environment at Rockstar Games. It says Bloomberg reports that according to people familiar with development, Rockstar Games had already begun trying to dumb down content that could be deemed as offensive as early as 2020. This has been a giant worry. I mean, I've talked about Grand Theft Auto quite a bit here on the channel, and I've been very worried that they would tone down the content and go in a different direction with the next GTA game. And even though this isn't 100% confirmed, we've heard many rumors like this, and I feel like at least some of them have to be true. After the death of George Floyd and the subsequent riots, the studio allegedly halted plans for their Cops and Crooks mode for Grand Theft Auto Online. Senior executives were concerned how releasing such a mode where teams of players fought against each other in teams of police and criminals would be taken at the time. And of course, this is absolutely ridiculous, okay? It is a video game. Yes, there were going to be a few people who were going to be mad at it and say, oh, it's so insensitive that you're releasing this right now. But ultimately, many games like this exist, and it's not like they're ever going to stop being created. I don't know why you would just stop working on a whole mode for Grand Theft Auto Online because of one event that happened. It says, noting that Rockstar Games had also censored allegedly transphobic content from the latest console release of GTA 5, the outlet reports that the studio had also significantly narrowed its gender pay gap. Bloomberg then, with surprisingly little fanfare, reveals the claim that GTA 6 will have the series' first playable female protagonist, according to people familiar with the game. Again, I have no problems with this. I don't think that this is a bad direction. Obviously, we have to see how the character acts and their backstory, and that is what would make the character great. But I don't have a problem with hearing that there could be a female lead in this title. It talks about how it could potentially be a pair of protagonists, and they're a pair of bank robbers with the woman being Latina. I mean, sounds pretty generic, but again, I'd actually have to see the details. Rockstar may also be trying not to punch down with jokes about marginalized groups, the sources claim, in contrast to prior games. While prior titles had seemingly mocked American society as a whole with no holds barred against any group, they want to basically just be better in their games and outside of their games, because it talks about how there have been multiple sources over the years claiming that they have a very toxic workplace culture at Rockstar, and there have been several employees who have come out and said, yeah, it's just not the best working environment. There's crunch. People are just partying all the time, drinking, brawling. But, you know, keeping with the content itself, I think that it's absolutely absurd to tone down content because you want to look more politically correct, because that's ultimately what this is about. They are afraid of being canceled, and they are afraid of putting out a new game with extremely edgy content, edgier than their previous games, because they know that they risk getting canceled. We live in an age of social media where many people are willing to go online and whine, moan, groan, and complain if they see something they don't like in a video game, and they're afraid of people boycotting their titles, talking bad about their titles and their company, and ultimately potentially getting canceled. Grand Theft Auto got extremely popular because these developers were just creating what they wanted: adult content, edgy humor. They didn't care, but now they do. They want to be more politically correct with the times because they're afraid of being canceled, and now we see them going backwards. And I don't want to support developers who are going backwards. If I play the next Grand Theft Auto game, I want to play it for all of the reasons why I've loved the previous ones: the edgy content, the adult humor, and if they're going to tone those things down, I think a lot of people are going to be very turned off with their next game. The article also goes on to talk about how the game has had a slower development because, of course, COVID, and then it talks about contractors became full-time employees, and it says while sources say morale has allegedly been the highest it's ever been, which of course is great, some aren't sure the studio can still make the chart-topping caliber of game the studio has become known for. For example, to avoid excessive hours, the initial plan for GTA 6 to feature large areas based on North and South America was scrapped. It says instead the map will be focused on a fictional version of Miami, much like Vice City, and surrounding areas. The game also reportedly has the codename Project Americas, which matches prior rumors that claim the game would introduce a female protagonist. It definitely seems like they're trying to clean up their content and company, but now we have to deal with this happening. Sanitized content in Grand Theft Auto. Obviously, they're not lowering 6 to a teen rating and it'll still be an M for mature, but having any form of toned down content to be more culturally sensitive or politically correct is ridiculous, especially in a game like this where the franchise got popular for being edgy. We still can have some hope that this will not happen because this is not 100% confirmed. These are still just rumors, but unfortunately, these are rumors that we've heard for years at this point, and I'm leaning into believing them. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.